So moving our way through this, the second round, I opened up with the Kassites running back, grabbing some of their troops with a warlord and moving back. It's kind of weird. They were just reinforcing themselves because they had 2-point cards and a 2-point warlord they could grab 3 troops with. But they don't have a good commander yet. They have one waiting in the wings, but he's not on the field yet. And they could have influenced that role. I forgot about that effect. And it was probably kind of weird, but it ended up wise because, well, maybe. The Mitanni came slicing down 2, 3, 4 to attack. But the Babylonians don't want to fight. So they're playing the Omen card, preventing the battle from happening. And basically the Mitanni are going to be forced back. And the Hatti pushed their luck again, and they got wiped out. And an all-chariot army. They actually managed the same damage, 12 each side. Nobody wanted to charge, nothing like that. But the Hatti army was just so weak that it's down to 1 unit now. 1 unit of infantry. And as we can see, there's still some Egyptian forces left. Plus they brought their troops from the island. So they've got an overwhelming superiority here. If they can gather together, they can drive the Hatti back, I believe. All right, well, that's the end of the second round and on to a third. Okay, so I have been rolling so far for both the Kassites and the Egyptians, and they haven't gotten their new kings in. In the case of the Kassites, they want it. In the case of the Egyptians, they'd rather not have it because they have a somewhat more active king right now. So the Kassites actually played for time. I don't remember what they threw. They threw a trade card. They got themselves a wood and a tribute. And then for the Egyptians, they moved back and back up, destroying the Hittites. But the Hatti had a card up their sleeve, this one, which caused every single step of the way to require an attrition roll. That's really painful. The Egyptians, presumably a player would usually back away from that, but the Egyptians had such a massive advantage, and they could take the hits, basically, that they were willing to keep plowing forward in order to gain the extra production, because they're facing nothing up here, and if they can keep moving with their good king, they can maybe take Ishua. Of course, they have the advantage here as well, but it's not as impressive, so they're kind of looking forward to getting where they're facing absolutely nothing. And if they can get the extra victory points there, that puts them right up against that 19, right up against that 20, I'm guessing. They were at like 16 before. If they can get this one and these two, that puts them back up to 19, almost in the danger zone. Now, everyone else is going to have to get a little bit more serious if that happens. All right, onward. But the current situation scared the Mitanni enough, along with the fact that they have this card, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which if they can have the king on a coastal space in Amaru after an activation, well, and they can do that 1, 2, 3, 4, then, giving up their siege, then they get 2 quick victory points and a full strength chariot unit. The victory points is the big goal here, but they're also going to start demolishing Egypt. The Mitanni moving this way, and with the Babylonians heading into the southern areas, it's going to be really, really problematic for the Egyptians. And what looked like maybe a shot at victory is now looking like a disaster in the making, because this was an agreement that they could not, really handle. What's going to happen is the Babylonians can come through here and here. This is what the Mitanni have given them a grant to. And then can cut down through Kadesh and really take Amaru, to tell you the truth, right? Because they only need 4 in both the major cities. So they're getting that. The Mitanni are getting the victory points that they want from here, and then the ability to cut up and fight northward towards the Egyptians. And we'll see what, kind of alliances fall out from. Well, there's a couple of issues. One is the Babylonians had no cards left, so they had nothing they could add to this. And the second is, well, the Egyptians are ignoring it as well. They moved forward. They managed to take a space in the Hatti territory, as well as come down and destroy this army. There is now no Hatti army whatsoever facing them. So if the Egyptians have another good card, they may well be expanding further and further into Asia Minor, rather than dealing with the threat down here. We'll see. And the remainder was political plays. The Mitanni dropped a space in here. That means no matter what, the Egyptians aren't going to get the points for this anymore. And the Hatti regained their space with a political card. This was just a freebie for the Egyptians, and it's actually, I don't know if they can regain it because they don't have any troops there. I'm going to have to look that up. They may just take another trade action then. Trade action it is indeed. The problem is the Hatti don't have another card. They were down to their last card. So even if they took a mercenary or something, it wouldn't help them much. They couldn't regain this. So they're going to take a victory point loss for that, which is a shame for them. It doesn't really help the Egyptians any, but they got to do some damage. And we're moving into the final round here of this turn. I think I found the Kassite hand that was hiding over here. Bother. I'm going to activate them because that was kind of disturbing that they couldn't. So I'm just going to do 2 quick activations to pull them through here. So their first one, let me explain what happened before I go to try to repair things. The Egyptians played Oriental Cruelty, which allowed them 4 PC marker changes, and they took 3 here to give them Yeshua. They weren't quite in range to reach and gain the last space here. They could have taken some revenge or whatever on the Hatti, but they don't really want to hurt them more particularly. So what they did was they grabbed this location back, but then the Epic of Gilgamesh was played, and the Mitanni gave up their Ugarit holding and marched down and grabbed their couple victory points for this. This is a hard call because they had, if they hadn't played that, they could have maybe gotten this in ownership. Now it's split. It's not Egyptian, which is good enough. But with the loss of Ugarit, then they couldn't capture the province. So just taking Aleppo wouldn't be sufficient. So marching down was the right thing to do, giving them 2 victory points. Got to get moving with those Babylonians. Use their cards. They're going to get 2 actions, basically. What we see is a situation where there were 6 points taken away from the Egyptians easily between Amaru and Ugarit. And those 6 points would have been enough to win the game here. They made 15 victory points this turn. Who else pulled in? Well, the Kassites only got 7. Let's see if we can read this. This is really hard to see. We got a total of 13 for the Mitanni, but 2 of those are for that special card. Some of them were from battles as well. They had a decent amount of points here. And now the poor Hatti are down to only 6. And players have to choose which cards they're going to throw out and the like. But otherwise, that's the end of this turn. I'm going to have to load this one up, I guess. Just one quick thought, I guess, before we leave. Looking at the points. And I forgot to do this again, and I've reset them. Well, I got to do that, and I got to try to remember where the points were. I may have to look at the video again. But looking at the points now, the Egyptians are at 50. The Mitanni are at 49. This is total after what I should have done here. 39 for the Kassites, and we're falling further behind if we can see. which is 30 over here for the Hattie. And you really have to put your face right on those charts to read them. It's much harder than, you know, most games. Maybe because they're trying to use subtle, dull colors or something, but whatever. It doesn't stand out the way most counters and map sheets do, in a way. Yes, I can understand you want to make something visually pleasing, but it should also be capable for the eye to discern more easily. Of course, I'm probably, with my contacts, I see worse than with my glasses, and I've got them in right now. But that's not the point. I've had the problem with my glasses, too. Okay, so what I was saying is the Egyptians they're just 1 point ahead of the Mitanni at this point, but the Mitanni have managed to do something in terms of getting this collaboration against the Egyptians because the Egyptians were close to the automatic victory. In fact, they would have won this turn had they been left alone. So the fact that they became such a threat is making it possible for everybody to gang up on them and tear them apart and put their own differences aside, which is going to give the Mitanni a huge bonus. As long as the Mitanni aren't being destroyed by 3 of the powers, they're going to collect decent points. Now, of course, at some point or another, they disappear, and it's not too far from now. If we can read these numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On this turn, they switch over, and you've got a leader here. He doesn't really exist. He's an accident, again, of the production. But the Assyrians will come in their place, and there's, they're much, much weaker to begin with. They're not going to have whatever the Mitanni have built up. All right, up this one goes.